afternoon. My name is John Carter. I'm the city attorney, and I have been assigned by the council to be the facilitator for our ad hoc redistricting committee. This is our third meeting. In a moment, I'll tell you generally what we've done at the first and the second meeting and direct you, those folks who may be joining us by Facebook, by G10, and other social media means. But we welcome you. We're glad of your interest in our redistricting committee work, and we hope you'll find this informative, and we'll talk even more about that and your ability to give us your input as you hear this committee go through the work that they have been given. I'd first like to begin this evening by welcoming Council Member Dr. Washington, who's with us this evening. We appreciate your coming out and being with us. And of course, we appreciate all of our committee members. We are missing one committee member this evening, but we do have a time limit and some work to do, and we've indicated to that person how they may be watching us themselves on G10 or social media, Facebook, etc. The first thing we'd like to do this evening, we each were sent a copy of the minutes of our last meeting. There's been one addition, and that was the approval of the minutes of the first meeting. But I hope everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes and would be more than willing to receive any kind of input or corrections to the minutes at this time.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
hearing no corrections, I'd like to move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second. Any discussion? If not, then I'll ask a vote. Everybody in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Excuse me. Before we begin our presentation this evening, I was asked, and I think it's appropriate, that I take just 2 or 3 minutes here to bring those folks who may be joining us for the first time, especially on, like I said, G10 or the social media platforms that are out there, as to what we've done in the first 2 meetings. And I'll tell you again how you can get to those meetings if you want to review this information in more detail. The first meeting was my opportunity to speak at length, going over the legal guidelines that are set out for ward redistricting. We also went over the state statute that the legislature passed earlier this year that set forth the timelines for completing this redistricting project and set forth the filing periods and also set forth the election date, which will be on March 8th, 2022. We also reviewed at that time the actual census numbers for the city of Jacksonville, and we'll talk more about those as we go through the meeting this evening. The second meeting was for our staff to give to the committee members information on public education, and the committee actually adopted a public education plan. They also gave information on public input, and the committee also adopted a public input plan, which we'll speak about in a moment as we get down to the scheduling. The committee also approved splitting 2 downtown census blocks so as to honor the present wards as they exist today. And we have recorded that, and we'll talk more about that in a moment and what that did as far as the numbers that we talked about last time. And of course, we at that time went over the schedule for the committee's work, and we will cover that at the end of our meeting this evening. The first thing, as far as slides and presentations, I'd like to do is to call upon Lisa Miller, our senior media specialist, who I want her to go in and tell you a little bit about what's happening as far as the public education in particular that we put out, and in a moment we'll tell you how that's had a domino effect at the end. But Lisa, you go right ahead.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everybody. I'll just do a brief, quick review. We talked last week about the public education and input plan and ways that we were going to get information out to the public. And we've been doing that behind the scenes. We've been working hard to make sure that we get the word out that public comment is welcome for this committee, and that we also shared what the schedule was so that people can tune in, come in live, or share their comments as well. So we've done that on G10 TV, through our YouTube, digital signage, through print materials that we have, through the city website, on social media, and sharing the information for folks to call in to City Hall. One of the interesting things that has happened since we've been putting this information out, our local media has started noticing that the redistricting committee is doing their work. So we've had a couple of articles in the last week, just in the last week, a couple of stories that have have been shared. And so they talked about our splitting of the census blocks, as John just mentioned, in the downtown area, as well as approving the meeting schedule. As we move forward with when we do have the media interest, we make sure that we share that the major funnel for that public input and all the information that you share and you decide on is going to be presented here at the Jacksonville nc.gov/redistricting webpage. We also have information on the main webpage so that folks that come to our website can easily find information about redistricting. And we're also continuing to share that information and welcoming feedback through our social media sites. John, that is all that I have for this moment. I know that we're going to dive a little bit deeper into our reach to the community.
Yes.
But at this point, if you have any questions about what I just talked about, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I call up the next speaker, I would like to go back to what I originally said as far as if you're watching us by G10 or social media and you'd like to look at the first and the second meetings of this committee, you can do so by going to Facebook to our City of Jacksonville page there. You can also go to our dedicated YouTube channel and you can also see it at that location also. So there's multiple ways to get that back. The next person who has not spoken before, who's part of our team, and we are really a team effort, and this team has really put forth the effort to put this together for you, is our IT director, Terrence Braxton. And Terrence is going to come up and he's going to talk to you about the outreach of these different types of media sites. Terrence?
Thank you, John. Good evening, committee. I will provide you with a quick breakdown of how many people we are currently reaching as we go through this redistricting process. Our city website receives on average 40,000 visitors per month, with 300 visitors to our redistricting site so far. As they navigate the website, they have the ability to receive the most up-to-date information on the redistricting process. We are also reaching out to the 14,600 utility customers within the city. Each household receives a bulletin that provides them information about the city of Jacksonville. This bulletin has provided updated redistricting information over the last several months, and we have been starting doing this since June of this year. We also have a real strong following on social media, with Facebook being our most followed platform with 35,500 followers. These platforms give the community the opportunity to leave relevant comments, questions, likes, or shares of any video or article related to redistricting. Facebook is where we receive the most engagement in reference to public input. On average, we are reaching out to 1,000 to 2,000 followers on Facebook who are seeing redistricting information in their news feeds. This also gives them the ability to share their information to their friends and followers. Oops. Our last redistricting meeting had a combined viewership of over 700 people on Facebook and YouTube. Even during a COVID-restricted environment, we are still able to reach out to the community and provide them with redistricting education information and allow for their input. I will end this by reminding the committee and the community that information pertaining to the redistricting process can be found on the Information Hub on our city's website. If anybody would like to leave a relevant comment or question pertaining to redistricting, it can be submitted via the Submit Your Redistricting comment. Any question from the committee?
A couple of things I'd like to say at this point. I want to tell you about the domino effect. Our last meeting was broadcast on G10. That meeting was picked up by a daily news reporter who probably sat in the comfort of her home and wrote a story on it. Did anyone of our committee see that this week in the paper? Daily News, front page story. Even had the mistake of the 4 to 6 as far as the public input, which we've called and trying to get a correction on that. But from that, the story, as well as a notice of this meeting, we also got an inquiry from at least one TV station. Again, the domino effect. They came and they interviewed Lisa as far as the work of the committee, the public outreach, the public education, the public input. But it is that kind of an effect that we are really doing our best, and I think we're having a significant reach to the community as far as that it works that way. I would encourage any of you who have social media accounts or whatever to share this particular page, your Jacksonville page, et cetera, and to try to get others to see it, so that, again, we're doing all you can do and we're doing to put this out for the community so that we can share this. And again, we want, at the end of the day, when all this is said and done, we don't want anybody to ever come back and say, well, I didn't know anything about that, or I had no idea these meetings were going long. We want to do everything we can, as Terrence said, in this COVID environment, to do our public education and our public outreach, and that's what we're trying, and we ask you as committee members or anyone out there listening on G10 or through Facebook, et cetera, we do the same thing. We appreciate that. Now, Lisa is going to pass out something to you, and I'm going to talk a moment, and then I'm going to turn it over to Angelia, who's really why you all came back to here, not me. But what you're being passed out now is actually a copy of the slides that are going to be presented to you here in just a moment. We have found that with the screens, the large screens that we're looking at, sometimes the colors are diluted, and you cannot clearly see what's yellow or maybe what's a beige and so forth. So we wanted to actually print these next slides out to you, and three of them I'm going to talk about here in a moment, but then I'm going to turn it over to Angelia, and she's going to actually do the talk and as far as what we would propose to you as a committee to consider as far as the redistricting and balancing of wards 1 and 4 for your public input session. But let us begin here with me doing about 3 of these. I told you last time when we left that we would come back this time and we'd tell you what your action of splitting those 2 downtown blocks, how it affected things. And again, it affected them by a decrease of 236 in Ward 1 and an increase of 236 in Ward 3. Well, what does that mean? They're not balanced. Ward 1, as you can see by this slide, again, we try to keep with the colors of our different wards, red, pink for 1, 2 green, 3 blue, 4 yellow. Ward 1 is still 61 persons over the allowable amount. It's not in balance. Ward 2, of course, it's got the same number that it's always been. It needs 2,580 more persons. Ward 3 now needs 2,200 to be reduced by 2,276 to come into balance. And Ward 4 is in balance as it's always been. And of course, Ward 4 has the ability to take more persons. I want to slow down just a moment and let you sort what's in front of you. And because this is going to be shown to you as Angelia goes through each of her presentations here on options as far as balancing wards 1 and wards 4. What Angelia has really done here is she has put the minimum size of the ward. That is over, again, each ward 1, 3, 2, and 4 all have that number, and that's the 17,271. The maximum size, 19,089. As you can see, Ward 1, 2, and 3 are out of balance. The red arrow does not fall on that scale, okay? Again, the number that the number, if you had them all equal, would be that 18,000 number, which Angelia will have on her slides when she comes up here in a moment. I did have on the other, 18,180. But does everyone understand the scale here? Because this is something you'll be seeing on the next few slides. If you have any questions, please let us know, because we want you as well as the public there to understand the way we're presenting this materials to you. Everybody good so far? Do you have any questions of me as far as how your action last time affected the population counts? Again, I know everybody came to hear Angelia, and it's that time. So Angelia is here, and she's going to now talk to you about options for the committee to consider as far as wards 1 and 4. Angelia?
Good evening. Ooh, I have a clicker. Just a brief review. These are the guidelines that we are using for redistricting. We need to balance the population. As you saw earlier, tonight we will be using a number line to see how our options balance between our minimum and maximum allowed population. We will try to honor the current ward boundaries if possible. Our goal is to split census blocks only if necessary. And of course, we need to make sure boundaries are contiguous when assigning blocks to a voting ward. Tonight, we are going to focus on our second area of interest on Camp Lejeune. Since 2011 redistricting effort, Wilson Boulevard is a major road that has been constructed on Camp Lejeune. The Census Bureau used Wilson Boulevard as the delineating road for census blocks. If we use Wilson Boulevard as our delineating boundary, we can eliminate splitting any census blocks. Using Wilson Boulevard as a new ward boundary does preserve interest, community interest on the base. Let's take a closer look. Here is a map of the current voting wards with our area of interest, Wilson Boulevard, circled in red. I do want to take a moment to just pause here. The ward boundaries and census blocks do not stop at the border of the river. So you may see areas of water in the various ward boundary colors, meaning it could be pink, it could be yellow, it could be green, it could be blue. Just to let you know, census blocks and the ward boundaries do extend into the water. Our water is gray, and then we have a transparency so that you will see both the water and the ward boundary. Our first option in this area is Tarawa Terrace II. This is a family housing area to the east of Wilson Boulevard. The map you see has census count numbers on it. You can see that the current ward boundary uses Iwo Jima Boulevard for the ward boundary. We are recommending moving the ward boundary to Wilson Boulevard. And assigning the Tarawa Terrace II area to Ward 4. It would impact 1,388. This would also eliminate a slight problem in this area in that we do have a census block that is in 2 wards. It is the southernmost census block, and it crosses Ward 1 and Ward 4. With this option, it does balance the population, staying between our minimum 17,762 and our maximum 19,089.
Let's stop there just a moment and ask if there's any questions. Do you understand the presentation so far as the recommendation? And you understand there's a census block that is presently split there between Ward 1 and Ward 4, that this would eliminate that split of a census block. And this is one of several options you're going to be seeing, but we want to make sure you're comfortable with them. Yes, Glenn, go ahead.
I want to make a note that the previous members of this committee that served in 2010, 2011 will remember that Wilson Boulevard was not built at that time.
Absolutely.
And that the previous occupant of the previous office that Mr. Prince holds now gave us the best guess of where it would cross the river and where it could be. So there are several delineations that were based on that line. And that was the best guess that we could do at the time, was to use that. And at the end of it, Iwo Jima Boulevard was selected to divide 1 and 4 simply because we had an imbalance that needed to occur in the opposite direction that you're going right now.
And it's a major road or base at that time. Like you said, there was no Wilson Boulevard at all. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Angelia?
Okay. This would bring Tarawa Terrace 1 and Tarawa Terrace 2 together, which would preserve a community interest by moving Tarawa Terrace 2 into Ward 4. As you can see on the number line, it does balance between Ward 1 and Ward 4. Our second option in this area is Heroes Manor. This is another family housing area to the east of Wilson Boulevard. Again, on the map, you can see census count numbers on it. You can see that the current ward boundary uses Stone Street as the delineating ward boundary. With this option, we recommend moving the ward boundary to Wilson Boulevard and assigning Heroes Manor to Ward 4. It would officially impact 88. I would like to speak for a moment about those officially counted 88 people. We all know there's more than 88 people that live in Heroes Manor. Just to the north of Heroes Manor on Wilson Boulevard is a small census block with 1,150 people. We know no one actually lives on Wilson Boulevard. It is our opinion that those 1,150 people are actually part of the population for Heroes Manor. This is part of the privacy protection that the U.S. Census Bureau did to protect people's data. Due to the current ward boundaries for that highway census block, it has already been included in the count for Ward 4. The boundary is off here, off to the west, and so it was already included in the count for Ward 4. This option would rectify that discrepancy count for Heroes Manor. With this option, it does balance the population, staying between our minimum of 17,271 and maximum of 19,089. Any questions?
Does everyone, I believe everyone, I hope everyone, the committee is aware of where we're going. We've actually started at Highway 24 and Wilson Boulevard. We've gone down that by TT 2, and now we're at Heroes Manor, heading again toward Holcomb Circle, I believe, or Holcomb Boulevard down there. Does everyone understand where we're at geographically?
Yes, we're moving down Wilson Boulevard.
Okay, very good, very good. Any questions for Angelia on this one or comments? Okay, Angelia?
I didn't lose anybody yet?
Not yet.
All right.
Let me ask a question.
Oh, yes.
These options for TT being there or Heroes Manor being there, is that what you're telling me, or you're putting them both in?
We'll get to that. All the options presented tonight will be as standalone options, or you can combine them.
Okay, thank you.
So that will be, the numbers that you're seeing for population balancing and impact are all individual.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Our third option in this area is Paradise Point. This is another family housing area to the west of Wilson Boulevard. Again, on the map are the census count numbers. You can see that the current ward boundary uses Stone Street and McHugh Boulevard. With this option, we recommend moving the ward boundary east to Wilson Boulevard and assigning the Paradise Point portion of Ward 4 to Ward 1. It would officially impact 94 since the majority of it is made up of schools and green space with no population. With this option, it does balance the population, staying between our minimum 17,271 and maximum 19,089. Any questions?
Now, on this one, Angelia, again, we're doing something different. We're actually moving this over to Ward 1.
That is correct.
It presently is in Ward 4.
This particular portion is the officer housing area of Paradise Point. With this recommended option, it would move that officer housing area to be with Ward 1's officer housing area of Paradise Point. It would just be bringing it back together.
So this could not be a standalone because it would have Ward 1 out of balance. It goes to 19,244, and I think our max is 19,089. So it would have to be in conjunction with one of the other options that you are considering. But again, we'll get to that, but I wanted to make that clear. This alone could not, I don't believe, be accepted.
Right.
Again, but we are trying to honor what we think is something, of course, that's happened since 2010, 2011, and that is Wilson Boulevard being a major road through the base, and it also being a road where there are no census blocks that are split by it. All census blocks are either on one side of the road or they're on the other side of the road. There's nothing split by this, as they are by other roads that do split census blocks.
That is correct, and actually, the Census Bureau did something very interesting. It made Wilson Boulevard a series of its own census blocks, very skinny little census blocks.
Okay.
So if you see zeros on your map along Wilson Boulevard, that is why.
Okay. Ernie, you had a question?
Yeah, just a question. I noticed that Ward 1, even before you add the 94 people or citizens, it's already out of, it's out of the zone. So we're just kind of adding more on, and shouldn't we be mindful? And you said you have to use another option with it. I'm interested in what other option are we going to use with this, because this is looks like it's out of kilter right now, and we're adding to it. So how are we going to bring it back?
If you were to
Under-
use option 1 or option 2.
For her next presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll see it in just a minute. Let's get, go
Okay.
ahead.
Now, it is our recommendation, and it was our goal with this, to use Wilson Boulevard as the new ward boundary. As a result, we also considered the Wallace Creek Military Barracks area on Camp Lejeune. When examining the population impact of assigning Wallace Creek to Ward 1, it does not work and causes both wards to be out of balance. Not including this area, it does not impact any community interest, since this area is military barracks, while options 1, 2, and 3 are family housing areas. So we're recommending to stopping the shift for Wilson Boulevard at the Wallace Creek. Here is a summary of all the options. You can choose to accept all 3 options or just choose 1 or 2 of them. All options keep wards 1 and 4 in balance. So this is a summary screen showing how the math works. And that the final updated population for Ward 1 would be 17,768, and Ward 4 would be 18,899, which is in balance.
So again, tonight, we're not asking you to make a decision. We're just asking you to consider these as possible options that you might hear input from the public on it, your public input. Let's again walk it from the beginning. 1 stands alone. If you said, hey, I don't want to go any further than TT and move TT2 over into Ward 4, away from Ward 1, we can stop the conversation right there. That's an option this committee will have after you receive your public input. Or you could say, no, Wilson Boulevard is really a main thoroughfare. If we can do this thing, let's carry it as far as we can. But we can go ahead down, as we said, through Heroes Manor. And you can even though standing alone, option 3 cannot stand alone, it can stand with the other 2, so that you could adopt a plan that incorporated option 1, 2, and 3, and your wards would be in balance. What you see at the bottom there, that number of 17,768 for Ward 1 and 18,899 for Ward 4, those would be your populations if you adopted all 3 of those. And as you can see by this scale, and again, I hope you can see better maybe by the documents we gave you, that's why I gave you the paper, that you're in balance there. Again, something to think about as you're walking forward. Ernie, did that help with you understanding why, about option 3, why we even brought in the conversation?
Why you need that. Yeah, one other question. You mentioned the Wallace Creek. I don't see how that fits in here. That doesn't fit in here, does it?
Well, let's talk about, you're talking about Wallace Creek housing. I think,
Yes.
I'm talking about the physical Wallace Creek itself. I presume that is the creek that crosses under Wilson Boulevard before you get to the housing section. Am I correct?
Yes, I can show my next map.
Go right ahead.
All right. So here is a summary map with the balancing shown. The areas, this would be the TT. This is how it would look if you decided to accept all three options. Here is Heroes Manor, reassigned to Ward 4, and here is Paradise Point, assigned to Ward 1. This area here is Wallace Creek. And you can see that we stopped at the physical Wallace Creek water feature.
That's where it becomes confusing because you have a physical creek named Wallace Creek, but you also have a housing, middle of base barracks that's called Wallace Creek.
Yes.
And that is very confusing. Would you like Angelique to go over this one more time?
Yes.
Please, so we
can do any
can
of
make sure we all understand what's being proposed to put on the table.
What you do is just clear those marks and draw the boundary down
Okay.
Wilson and then across Wallace Creek and down Hope. That would highlight the new ward boundary.
So as you can see from the map, Wilson Boulevard is now in red. This would be your new ward boundary. And we stop it here, where the Wallace Creek. The first area would be Tarawa Terrace II, being reassigned to Ward 4. This is what it would look like. These are the actual census blocks with their assignment. Here's the Heroes Manor area assigned to Ward 4. And then here is Paradise Point, officer housing area assigned to Ward 1.
Is that Paradise Point, is that a separate census block?
Yes, they're separate census blocks.
It's actually two, the one doesn't have any population. That's the
Well,
school.
Technically, there's 4. 3 of them have small population because they're following the streets, and then one of them is the school with no
That
population.
require another split if that option was adopted?
No,
It wouldn't?
no. The U.S. Census Bureau on the base used Wilson Boulevard very well. They, other than the one block that up in Tarawa Terrace that kind of skirts around the bottom of it, none of the rest of these have any blocks that have an issue with being in both wards.
Because you initially said that the Wilson Bay Boulevard was, ran up to the census block, but then this Paradise Point is on the other side of that.
Right,
Is it
so
not?
the
But they
options,
included it as well? Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that.
There are different census blocks on
Okay,
both sides.
both
No
sides.
divisions at
Okay.
all. Yes, sir.
It seems to me, I got a question. And maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but does it appear that Ward 4 is taking some of Ward 2's population?
Ward 2, no.
Not at all. We just, I will point out, that's a good point to bring up, Ernie, Mr. Wright. If you look up here, you know, people are always saying, well, you got the base in Wards 1 and Wards 4. Well, there's base in Ward 2, too. If you go to Midway Park up here on the other side of 24, there's housing. Now, certainly not as much as in Ward 1 and 4, but there is base housing in Ward number 2.
Go back to the Wallace Creek slide. Current voting wards, Wallace Creek. Right there. It says area of interest. What I've got on my sheet is current voting wards, Wallace Creek. And I've got Ward 2 in there. I don't see Ward 2 in any of that, because I guess you're not concentrating on Ward 2.
No, these options tonight don't touch Ward 2.
You may be thinking Ward 2 because that blue or that yellow looks a little bit like green, but that is all yellow. That is all
Well,
Ward 4.
what I'm saying is the sheet that I got has Ward 2 in green. And it's prominent on my sheet for Wallace Creek, but I don't see it anywhere on that. I'm just asking why. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think their recommendation is going to be coming from 2 and 3 will be the next recommation for.
Will be the next recommendation.
On those two wards.
Going to have that as
I
a
know you
separate-
haven't gotten to it yet, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's why it's not there.
Okay. All right, I just wanted,
The ward labels is just so that you can see that the green belongs to Ward 2, the blue in the corner belongs to Ward 3, just kind of as a reference for those changes. Not that we are making any changes to
yeah,
those
because
tonight.
it appeared from, well, what I got, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, it's a lot more green than is showing on that, but we can get to that a little bit later.
But tonight's conversation is exclusively about Ward 1
One
and
and
about
four.
Ward 4 and the different options that you have. And if you'll go back to the slide, your summary slide, again, like I said, we're just asking that you consider putting these out as far as public input with the understanding, number one, you as a committee could recommend to the council, option 1 is the only thing we want to deal with. Move TT2 over to Ward 4, and the conversation ends there. Or you could say, no, let's go on down as far as we can on Wilson Boulevard. Let's do Heroes Manor. Everybody, you could do 1 and 2 together. Or if you wanted to, you could bring in number 3, and again, using Wilson Boulevard as the dividing line and still be in balance. You could not do option 3 alone. Clearly, that would not work, as we know. But you could, and back to Mr. Wright's question a few moments ago, that's how option 3 does. You're taking it as far as you can down Woodson Boulevard to the actual creek itself, the body of water. And that's just something for y'all to hear the public comment on and to see if that's something you would like to do or not do. You may say, or whatever. Now, the greater question, or maybe is, are there other areas of doing 1 and 4 that someone wants us to look at that we haven't looked at here this evening? We've tried to use Wilson Boulevard as being the dividing line, since that is a new road, a major road aboard base, and easily takes care of this imbalance of 61 with just option 1.
Yeah, and perhaps we can get some public input, because what I see is at least 1,000, 1,100 population difference between the two. And maybe someone can come up and say, hey, my area, you may want to add some more of my area. I just see it's not perfectly even, but there's about 1,100
Go back to that
citizens.
summary slide, Simone.
Actually, it's 1,382.
Okay, all right. I know it was over 1,000, but I'm just saying, somebody may come in and say, well, why don't we move something over to Ward 1 from Ward 4? I'm just saying,
Right.
public
Absolutely.
comment.
And I think especially when we get to talking about Wards 2 and 3, we as a staff are going to share with you information about where we see the city growing. We see the city growing in that area. As far as for Ward 1 is and Ward 4, it's limited because of the base, as far as the growth and so forth. So again, that discussion of future growth is clearly going to take place as y'all contemplate different options as far as Wards 2 and 3 and bringing them within the balancing here. But again, this is what we've come up with, and like you said, Mr. Wright, if you want to go back to that one more slide. If it may be that after you hear the public comment, you say, look, we don't want to move. Look, Ward 1 was over the maximum before we started this conversation, about 61 people. And now you've got it down to 17,768. Ward 4 was certainly much lower. You've moved it up to 18,000, nearly 900 people. You may say, just to honor things as they were, maybe all we want to do is just option 1, TT2. Again, that takes care of your 61, doesn't really upset number 4 as far as adding a lot of population, but it makes the balancing. But that's the kind of dialogue you need to have with the constituents and those folks who come out. And hopefully we'll get dialogue from the folks who are watching us on G10 or for especially the social media platforms that have an option of being able for them to comment. And we will share those comments with you.
How long has TT been a voting block in the city? I know Heroes Manor is a fairly new housing development. How long has that been a voting block?
TT has been a voting block since the base was annexed.
Okay. Now, when was that?
That was, go ahead, Mr. Wright. It was at the same time that the ward system began.
Okay.
They're pretty much
25 years ago.
88,
Okay. All right.
same time that the
Yeah, I was
base.
just curious as to, we've had some elections.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Good.
sir.
That's what I
Absolutely.
wanted to hear.
They're good.
Thank you.
John,
Yes.
one of the selling points, I think, on the first three options is the ease of explaining to somebody which ward they're in.
Yes.
And that's something that we sometimes struggle with out in the city is I can't tell someone what ward they're in because even if I knew where they live, I couldn't tell them. But now I would just ask them, well, which side of Wilson Boulevard do you live on?
Right.
And are you above or below?
And,
Wallace Street.
Yeah, Wallace.
and I think also, Homer, you know, when you look at it, again, from Highway 24 to the physical creek itself, that's housing units. That's not barracks or anything like that. So as Angelia pointed out, maybe it's good we weren't able to do the others going over Wallace Creek to the Wallace Creek Barracks, if you will, because that didn't work. Plus, that's a different community of interest, if you will, as I see it, where you have single military personnel, whereas in housing, base housing, you have, you know, married couples, et cetera, and so forth. So again, communities of interest, I think, is served also, as well as, like you say, making it very easy for folks to understand what ward that they're in aboard the base. But this is the kind of dialogue that y'all would be needing to have with your constituents and also at the public input session. Are you comfortable that, again, this either 1, 2, or 1, 2, and 3 together is something you want us to put together and have available for your public input session as far as dealing with the imbalance that exists between wards 1 and 4? And we're not asking you to vote on it, we just want a consensus that we're moved in the right direction, or if you, yes, Adam?
I like to see 1, 2, and 3 together, mainly because if you put 2 and 3, there's only 6 difference.
Yep.
Yes.
You know, so it's.
He's done the math, I can tell, he's done the math.
Good job.
Good job there. And again, so hearing no opposition, this is what we will put together for the public input so that you can receive input as to, you know, whether they like 1, whether they like 2, or they like all 3 of them together, which works with 6 plus, as I understand it from Mr. Maddox's math. Okay. Any other questions on this particular topic?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Public, you said options 1, 2, or 3, I understand that, or 1 or 2,
Correct.
since 3 cannot go
It
by
cannot
itself.
stand, that's correct.
All right.
The only way 3 can play is it plays with 1 and 2.
Right.
2 and
It
3
does
can
not
go
stand
together.
alone. It cannot
2 and
stand.
3 can go together, can't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
2 and 3 could, that's
I'd be
another option.
interested in a 2 and 3. And the reason is, we have a known block with TT being in 1. That's a known. And if we're gonna shift 4 drastically with 18, 13, 1,500 people or so, why not just make it 100 or so people, and you still get your balance?
Is there a math issue there?
I don't think it's quite enough, because if you add 94 to Ward 1, you're taking away 88, there's only 6 difference.
Well, I'm saying, do you take 2 and 3?
Yeah.
Do you still want balance it? I think it's already close to being balanced, isn't it? 4 is.
Remember, we're 61 over in Ward 1, so we've got to bring it down, and I'm doing math in public, which is really, really dangerous. But if you take 94 and you subtract 88, I come up with 6, okay? So 6 is, you still minus from 61, we're 55 too high in Ward 1. Mr. Johnson, where my math is. Am I, Angelia?
I'm not even gonna take a stab at the math.
No, but this is what it's about, is having this
Yeah.
discussion, and again, no decision has to be
Yeah.
made tonight. You have the papers in front of you, you can go home and do the
Yeah,
math.
we can play with it.
You-
Yeah.
At your leisure, that's what this is truly all about.
And I'm not so sure that the barracks is insignificant.
No, not that they're insignificant,
Well,
that the
that's
count, the
what I want
count's
to be
very
made clear,
high.
because
The count's very
people in the
high.
barracks vote pretty heavily,
Oh, yeah.
believe it or not.
It was, and the
So-
only reason we didn't include it
Yeah.
was because it just threw things off and it wouldn't be in balance.
Okay, I
That's the
understand.
only reason.
I understand.
But you do have a different community of interest from the barracks
Yes,
to
and the
family
housing area.
housing.
Yeah,
That
sure.
was another thing that the creek, the physical creek actually accomplished.
Okay, thank you.
Is this, I pulled it up again, the Wallace Creek area that includes the barracks would move 2,335 from Ward 1 into Ward, from Ward 4 into Ward 1. It causes both wards to become very, not just a little bit out of balance, but like severely out of balance.
Okay.
So, we can re-examine Wallace Creek area, but, we wouldn't be able to use roads as our delineating boundary, in order to grab some of the barracks and not all of them.
Because it is a growing area, has been, there's quite a few units have been moving in that area. So, yeah, I understand.
And, you know, I may have misspoke in the sense that I said no room to grow, but the base certainly has added
it's just
residences.
housing
aboard-
areas and et cetera,
Housing areas that
they've
weren't
been
there
growing.
before, 10
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Heroes Manor is a great example.
Yeah.
Among others. Wallace
Wallace
Creek
Creek.
wasn't
Knox,
even there.
Knox area has grown
Grow-
considerably.
Yes.
Knox Landing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other thoughts or comments on this? Thank you, Angelia. You did a great job, as always.
Yeah, thank you.
We were prepared to move on to wards 2 and 3, but it's 6:16, with Mr. Rogers not being able to be here. We only think it's fair to put that off because, again, it's going to be another, and look, this has been great, folks. That's what we want you to be here for, to give us feedback, to have discussions and so forth, to take these home now and to digest them. And again, no decision's been made tonight, but you'll be able, for the public input session on 1 and 4 when that time comes. And then, like we said, after that. Now, if my media folks would pull up the schedule for me, please. Thank you. All right, so today is the 15th. We have finished our third meeting of the Redistricting Committee. Our next meeting will be next Wednesday, the 22nd. And at that meeting, we will be prepared, as we were tonight, but we'll have, again, a handout for you, and we'll be asking you to give us the consideration, just like you've been great tonight, and give us consideration about some options that we would like to propose to you as far as balancing wards 2 and wards 3. The 29th is still available. If again, with that discussion, you say, well, I've taken these documents home and I thought about it, I want to come back on the 29th and have further dialogue before we have public input. That date is still there and is reserved. Again, keep in mind that your public input session is on October the 6th, so we'd like to receive what we don't receive from social media and other means to the clerk and so forth. We'll have those cards ready, and we will, during that 2-hour period. Let me just go ahead and say, you could welcome to come stay with us the whole 2 hours. If you can't come the whole 2 hours, come and be with us a while. Hopefully we'll get some turnout. We may not get a lot of folks. We will have to, again, deal with the COVID precautions as far as the number of people allowed in the council chambers and so forth. But again, that is set for October the 6th from 5:30 to 7:30, and we'll have it displayed after you go through wards 2 and 3 so that, again, you can receive and will receive on hopefully the cards that we'll furnish comments about the different proposals that will be presented there for y'all to consider. And of course, you'll be coming back after that on the 13th, and hopefully at that time, having further discussion after you receive that public comment and any other public input that you receive, and giving some finalization for us so that we can then prepare that for your presentation to the council on November the 3rd. Is everyone good with our schedule? Well, again, we appreciate your being here tonight. We appreciate the dialogue that we've had. I hope it's been helpful for you. It certainly has been helpful for us. And we look forward to seeing you next week at 5:30. And have a good evening. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.